I'm Armando Morales. I am with SizeUp. I am your customer success manager. And today I'll be walking you through a live demo of the widget, where you can find it, how to use it, why it's important. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. Now, during this live demo, I'm going to go ahead and give a PowerPoint presentation to start with. Then I'm going to go through how to use the widget on Lake Worth Beach CRA's website. And don't worry, this video recording will be recorded so that you can use later on. If you do have any questions, please use the Q&A chat or the chat. So in between certain pauses, I'll be able to check that and answer your questions. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So welcome to the live demo. So as a business or as a company that is geared towards small businesses and entrepreneurs, we like to keep track of the trends. So here we have the business formations of the US. And right here, we see this dip. That's the start of the pandemic. We thought that this was going to be the trend, and it shot up fantastically in the opposite direction. It shot back down a little bit, well, quite a bit. However, even the lowest low was still higher than the previous highs. So yes, that's the US. US is a big country. We can go ahead and look at the South, and it's a similar trend. And then we can look even closer at Florida, and it continues the same trend. So what? There's a lot of business formations. What that chart doesn't tell you is also the business failure rate. So here we have the business failure rate for the first 5 years in a business's life cycle. So as you can see, over the course of 5 years, about 50% of businesses will fail. Now, this is where SizeUp becomes very important and very critical, because close to 40% of those die a natural death, which is basically when your Xerox is still using fax machines, when everybody's gone to emails, when we have cars, when somebody's trying to sell horseshoes, or even rental DVDs when everybody has moved on to streaming. However, the other percentage of that die because they are failing due to a lack of preparation. And that's where SizeUp becomes so important. It provides the objective lens of data to help small businesses get better prepared for what they should be looking for in their industry and in their geography. So let's look at a couple of ways that we can perspectives on the tool. So here we have the way that you can search for industries within the tool. We can go as broad as retail, and then we can go, or in retail, we can go as broad as restaurants, we can go into Italian, and then we can go as specific as pizza. Another example, in the healthcare industry, we can look at medical, we can look at doctors, and we can look as specific as senior care. Now, we can look at all different scales depending on if the data is available, and it starts at the block, group, or neighborhood level. And then it goes up so that you can also compare yourself to the different scales. Now, there's 4 different modules in the SizeUp widget, and each one has their own specific purpose. We'll go through all 4 of those today. First, it's the My Business module, where you'll be able to compare your business to like industries in your geography and be able to compare certain benchmarks to those other industries or to the other businesses. You'll have the competition module, where you'll be able to analyze your ecosystem. Who are you competing with? Is it big box stores? Is it mom and pop shops? Is it clusters of them? Be able to discover potential new customers and suppliers. And then we have advertising, which we know that small businesses and entrepreneurs don't have the big budgets that big box offices or big box stores have. So through different approaches and filters, we show you where you can maximize your return on investment in advertising. And then last but not least, you will have the demographics module, where you'll be able to ask open-ended questions with different reports being able to be generated, such as demographics, consumer expenditures, and then also labor force. Okay, so that concludes the PowerPoint presentation here. I'm going to go ahead and check the Q&A, see if there are any questions so far. I see none. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen or change my screen to the widget. Okay. Now, if I could get another thumbs up that you see the LakeWorthCRA.org website. Okay. I think that's a yes. If that's a yes, then, or if it's a no, please go ahead and let me know in the chat or the Q&A. All right. So to access the widget, there's a couple of different ways. You can go directly to the LakeWorthCRA.org website. You can scroll down and you'll be able to see that SizeUp Lake Worth Beach is accessible here. So we can go ahead and click here and then navigate here. Additionally, you can go directly to the website here at lakeworthbeach.sizeup.com. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat so everybody can grab that, no matter what part of the webinar we are in. Okay, so we don't ask for NAICS or SIC codes or NAICS codes because we know that 95% of businesses don't know this. So we try and speak the same language that small businesses and entrepreneurs do. We only ask for two things and we speak in the same language. So here, if you want to type in, let's get that out of the way. If you are looking for a particular industry that you're in, you simply start typing that out. So for instance, we're going to go ahead and go with the example today of dentist. And as you can see, you start typing this in and then examples will pop down and you'll be able to explore from there. So here, let's go ahead and go dentist. And then the second thing that we ask for is your geography. In this case, we're going to go ahead and go to Lake Worth Beach, Florida. And now you have the four modules that we talked about. Now, each one of them has their own focus. And there's a little bit of a description here. And depending on which one you're interested in, you can go directly into it. So first, we're going to go ahead and start off with the My Business module. And here you have a whole host of different benchmarks where you can compare your business to like industries in your geography. Does anybody quickly want to type in the chat how much they think a dentist in Lake Worth Beach, the revenue that is generated on an annual basis? Okay, so I'm going to assume everybody's kind of thinking at the moment right now. And the thing is, you're in the same boat that small businesses and entrepreneurs are at the very beginning. They're not always completely sure what that is. So that's why SizeUp isn't so important. Here, let's go ahead and go with 600,000. And it looks like I'm somewhat close, but I'm also on the low end. So here we can see the business that we typed in, compare it to the city, and then at the different scales to the county, metro, state, and nation. And then we even have a heat map over here, where we can see the variability by zip code. So while this is an aggregate, we can also see the variability over here by zip code. And if we want to see even further or compare it outwards, we can zoom out here and we can go ahead and see more zip codes, zoom out a little bit further, and then we can also see by county. And then if we want to compare it even further, let's say we're comparing ourselves to a cousin in another state or something like that, then we can go ahead and compare how they vary in different states. Now, moving on to the next benchmark, year started this will give us an idea of what the trend is of that industry. So generally, and we can see this on every scale. So if we're not interested in the national trend, we can go ahead and click that off. Even with the state, we can go ahead and click that off, and we can see what the trend is of this industry of businesses opening. Generally, if this trend is going up, that means the health of that industry is good. Now, if we see it going in the opposite direction, then we might want to pause and think about the industry itself. So right here, if we go back to that previous example of rental DVDs, we might see the trend going in the opposite direction or the downward direction. And so moving on to the next benchmark, we can look at salary. So this is an aggregate of the average annual worker salary. So let's go ahead and type in something like 50,000. So this is a combination of all of those workers that work in the dentist industry. So you've got also your receptionists, your office managers, your dentists, your dental hygienists, etc. And again, we can compare over here by county. Now, what if we want to be a little bit more specific, like the whole dentist? So let's say we want to compare what a dentist makes versus the receptionist versus the dental hygienist. We can do that here with hourly wage by occupation. So let's go ahead and type in dentist, general, and then here we can see by average hourly wage or median hourly wage. Let's go ahead and start comparing that to a dental assistant. There we have it. And then if we also have to hire, let's say, a receptionist, if we're not doubling up on duties, then we can go ahead and type that in and we can see the differential here. And then we can make our decisions on wages accordingly. We can see what the average is in the industry and we can pay accordingly. So moving on to the next one, employees. The employees and the combination of salary are the biggest overheads typically that small businesses and entrepreneurs have. Get this wrong and you're paying a really, really high overcost and hire too few employees and you might not be able to service your customers. So as a dental office, I'm going to go ahead and get something like maybe 5. And here we go. It looks like I am above average on the amount of full-time employees. And of course, here's the heat map and you can see the variability. So typically it's about 3 in the city of Lake Worth Beach. However, it does get a little bit higher the further up you go in scale. So moving on to the next one, cost effectiveness. So here, this is going to be a combination of the previous inputs that we put in. So the average annual revenue, with the salary and the amount of employees that we had. So as you remember earlier, with our inputs, we were making less, we hired more employees, but we were also paying them close to the average. So that's why we are at about the average as far as cost effectiveness. With all of those combinations, that's where you'll spit this out. So now you can know where your numbers need to be adjusted for your cost effectiveness to go up. And we slice the data in multiple different ways. It's very helpful to see. So here we have revenue per capita, or you can see the quality of those dollars that are spent by zip code, or if you zoom out, by county. Now the same thing with total revenue. You can see this. This will be the combination of all the dentists in a given zip code or in a county. And you can go ahead and compare and make your analysis based on that. And then next we have local retention rate. So here, this is the percentage of the workers retained in a given industry. So right now it looks fairly high. So out of my 5 employees, if I were to lose 1, and we think, oh no, we've lost 1, that's a high percentage of my workforce. We look at this and we can see through the objective lens of data that this is actually the industry standard. And then of course, we can also break this down by the number of hires, separations, and turnover rate at the different scales. And it looks like it's pretty consistent throughout the state and the country. And then the next two benchmarks, healthcare cost and workers' comp, these have typically been opaque to small businesses in the past, but here you can go ahead and compare those and see what those R's are and be able to compare. Now, the next one's the premium KPIs. Here you have open hours, or the total hours open per week in a given business. So if I'm in the dentist industry, based on my experience from going to the dentist, I know that typically their hours are from 8 to 5. I know that I've typically had to take off time from work because they're at the same time. So I'm going to guess about 40 hours. And now we can see the breakdown of that. So it is about 40 hours. It varies slightly depending on the scale. However, now we can see the percentage of businesses open on a given day of the week. And as we might have guessed, the percentage open typically is skewed towards Monday through Friday, with Friday being a slightly less amount of hours. Now, what's curious here is there's Saturday and Sunday also available. However, if we hover over these, we can see that the percentage of businesses open on these days is much, much smaller than the previous days of the week, with Sunday being the least, and it looks like about 2% of Lake Worth or Palm Beach is open, and most likely that's due to them trying to get a different set of the clientele, maybe that can't make it through Monday through Friday, or even those emergency sessions that happen. You know, accidents happen, kids' birthday parties, skateboarding accidents, things like that. Now that we know the percentage of businesses open on a given day of the week, we can set our business days accordingly. And then of the days that the businesses are open, we can see the daily open hours, their average hours or their median hours. So we can see typically what the time frames are that they're open. So it looks what you would typically expect, 8:30 to 5 throughout the week, with some given a little bit of variability. But what's interesting here is on Saturday, it's a little bit more than a half day, typically about 9 to 2. And then on Sundays, though, it looks like it's a full day for those that are actually open. So if you are going to be open on the weekends, it looks like you're most likely going to be open an entire extra day. Now, with a workforce of 5, that might not be viable. However, you may want to catch a different part of the market. Either way, you have the objective lens of data to make that decision here. The next benchmark we have is broken out into the 5 different online presences. There's a lot of ways that you can market yourself online right now, but that also takes a lot of time and a lot of resources. So we want to optimize where we spend our time promoting ourselves. So looking at this, we can see what the online presence is if we are to do a website. So I'm going to go ahead and put in SizeUp.com. And then we can see in the dentist industry that in Lake Worth Beach, it's about 52 to 78% do have a website. It's a little bit higher in the county, but for the most part, it's consistent throughout the rest of the different scales, the metro, state, and the nation. So it looks like I may want to do a website, but let's look at the other online presences. So /SizeUp is. And it looks like there is, again, quite a presence, but not as heavy as a website presence. So at this particular moment, if I were looking to maximize my time and resources, I would want to focus on a website. And then if I had additional time, a Facebook next. Instagram, let's say I'm not interested in Instagram. I don't know how to use Instagram. We can simply check I do not have an Instagram account. And then we can see we are in the majority of those that do not have an Instagram account. It looks like this is not very popular among dentists. I know if I were on Instagram, I wouldn't be looking for my next dentist office. Same thing with LinkedIn. I'm going to go ahead and click I do not have one. Higher than Instagram, however, not quite as high. Imagine also this is also professionals potentially mingling with other professionals. Twitter, let's see, twitter.com/SizeUp. And Twitter is even less than LinkedIn. So I know that I definitely would not want to focus on there if I were in the dental industry. And then YouTube, I'm going to guess something similar, also about the same. So now that we've gone through that, now what? We have this summary view here. We click this and we can get a health dashboard view of all of the inputs that we just put in. And we can see that red is less and green is more. Now, there's a lot of different things that we can do with this. We can click this PDF button here. And for those of you that prefer something physical, you can go ahead and print that out and then be able to view it on your off time if your eyes get tired of looking at a screen. And all of the information that we just inputted will be there. So we can see all of the things that we typed in over here, the average annual revenue, the salary reports, everything like that. So here we can do a number of things. We can put this potentially in our business plan. We can use this to make sure that we understand and know the industry and the market that we're getting into. If there are incentive programs, potentially use this as our application, or part of our application. So that was the My Business module, being able to compare your business to like industries in your geography. One of the things I do want to point out before I do move on to the competition module is that we do have this I button here. And if we click it, it'll bring down a 1 minute or less video that explains and goes through the module that we're currently in, competition module. Here, this is the ecosystem of your business. So to mix this up, I'm going to go ahead and change this around. Let's go ahead and do beauty shops. Yes. And then it will populate all the beauty shops that are there. And it always starts at the geographic center of Lake Worth Beach. So here we see, just like Google, you'll have multiple pages. You can click on the second, third page, and you can get more and more results. So here's your competitors. Now, if you think you're competing with more industries, you can go ahead and come over here and you can click that you are also thinking that you are also competing with beauty and day spas. You click on that and it'll continue to populate even more. Here we can see who we're competing with. Is it big box stores? Is it mom and pop shops? And then we can see where all the clusters are. We can zoom out and we can see where all these red dots are, and that's where our clusters are. We can click here and we can get information on these businesses. Things like address, phone numbers, and then sometimes if it's potentially women-owned or minority-owned, if they have social media, we can find that there. And then we can go ahead and see who we're competing with. Now, there are two other very important tabs in this module, your customers tab and your suppliers. So if we click on our customers over here, we can build a prospective customers list. Just like we saw in the competitors tab, we can get a lot of the information, contact information, and continue to build. Now, this starts off blank because who knows your customers better than you do. So if I am a beauty salon, I'm going to want to target those that typically have to be in front of an audience to presentations and stuff like that. So I'm going to target things like government, let's see, government, executive offices, maybe education, education services, things like this. Another thing that comes to mind, attorneys. So industry, so we've done things like educational services, potentially having those that have to report to the boards, attorneys that have to go in front of court, government executive offices that have to go in front of council, things like that. And now that we have this list, we can go ahead and click on them and then go ahead and follow up and see potentially build a prospective customers list. And now that we know where our customers are, we can also view where they're spending their money as well. So right now we can see personal care makes sense. Maybe we specialize in hair care. You can click on this, and then we get information on consumer expenditures at the block group level. We see this overlaid with where our customers are. Very, very powerful. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and close this off so we don't have such a clustered map. And then I'm going to go into the final tab here, the suppliers tab. Discover where we're going to get our materials. Let's see. Having heuristic search, we simply start typing this in, and then we can go ahead and look at beauty salon equipment and wholesale supplies wholesale. But also we are an office, so we might want to look at office supplies or even stationery, and we can continue to build on industry after industry. However, we can look here and we can potentially discover suppliers that we didn't know existed. We can compare prices, negotiate different areas or different price points as well, maybe in bulk, that kind of thing. So that was the competition module, being able to compare and see who you're competing with. Is it big box stores? Is it mom and pop shops? Where's the cluster? Find, discover new potential customers and suppliers. The advertising module. So since I'm seeing no questions, you guys are giving me the false impression that I'm doing an extremely good job. So we still have 2 more modules to go through, so you still have time to get those questions in. So here we have the advertising module. Being able to optimize your target advertising and marketing dollars to get the best return on investment. Now here we have multiple approaches to spend your advertising dollars. We know that's so important nowadays because if you don't tell people that you exist, you don't actually exist. So let's go ahead and change up the industry a little bit. Let's say we're in Florida, so I'm also getting a little bit hungry. I think of seafood restaurants. I can only imagine the seafood is amazing out there. I haven't had the pleasure of visiting yet, but I'm sure I will in the future. So some of the approaches here we have are total annual revenue, revenue per capita, underserved markets, average revenue, total employees, and household incomes. So based on your approach and based on your product that you're selling and since we want to advertise in the seafood restaurant, we would have a different approach. Let's say hypothetically, I was a embroidery business, a small embroidery business, and I was looking to advertise in the seafood industry because I know that restaurants typically have a good size number of employees. That means that they need uniforms, which are bigger invoices, bigger amounts of uniforms needed. So that's one potential approach. But let's say I was also doing, I was selling maybe kitchen equipment, things like knives, maybe specifically geared towards seafood products. And maybe they were also specialized and higher end. I may want to look at something like total annual revenue. So let's go ahead and go with that approach. So here we can see that we have 17 results right off the bat if we're looking for total annual revenue. Now, maybe that might be too much. We can see that some of these are skewed different amounts of total annual revenue, and we can see that right here. And we can also compare that with the total amount of population. But let's say we also wanted to filter it down a little bit more. We can do that right here with this filters tab. Right now we have the search distance defaulted to 10 miles. However, you can do this all the way out to nationwide. And this is for those niche industries that are doing things like you need to ship across the country. So let's say I was a comic book store and I dealt in collectibles and memorabilia. You'd want to be able to see where else you can advertise across the country since it is such a niche product. But for now, we're going to go ahead and stay in the seafood restaurant industry and limit it down to 10 miles. Again, my products are a little bit more high-end, so looking at the demographic characteristics, I'm going to want to look at maybe household income about 75,000. Wow, that already filters our results down to 2. I also want to make sure that they're spending most of that money, still down to 2. And then we also want to make sure that the majority of people that are going to our restaurant are also old enough to be able to have that income. So let's go ahead and put it at least 23. Results are down to 2. Now we can see the best places to advertise based on our the filters and our approaches. Now, while we don't tell you how to, or while we show you where to advertise, we don't tell you how to advertise. Now you can continue with whichever way fits your industry or your business best, whether it's Facebook ads targeting certain zip codes in this case, or if you want to target billboards or bus stops, you can do that as well. So that was the advertising module, being able to optimize your marketing and advertising dollars to get the best return on investment. The final module in the SizeUp widget. And don't worry, while we're going through this, you can still ask questions in the Q&A and I'll be happy to answer. So here, we allow you to search in multiple different ways with 3 different report types to ask open-ended questions. The first one is for a place. And this is what people are typically most familiar with. You can select your area type, whether by city, county, or metro. So we can see there, and then we can see that the polygon will adjust to whatever your area type is. For now, we're going to go ahead and go to the city level, and we can see that we can generate 3 different reports. So depending on what you're trying to ask and get answered, you'll want to create one of these reports. So in the city of Lake Worth Beach, looking at the demographic overview, I may want to, let's go ahead and create that. No, excuse me. And here we see we have a whole host of different demographics that we can look at: population, sex, age distribution, race distribution, total household income, labor force status, education attainment. You get the idea. So let's say hypothetically I was a nonprofit looking to get most of my pets adopted. I want to look at potentially I know that 30 to 39-year-olds or millennials are typically the largest pet owning population in the US. So if I click over here, first we can go ahead and see total and percentage. It looks like there's a high percentage of millennials in the area. But if I want to do a deeper dive, I can toggle this on and I can go ahead and get a more specific view of where those millennials are by block group. I can see by total here. So it looks like the total intensity is higher in this area over here, in this area, or I can look at it as a percentage. So now I can do multiple approaches. Now I can look here and maybe partner with a store, maybe use their storefront or another type of establishment and be able to set up shop there and promote this dog adoption event. So the second way that we allow you to search these different report types, let me go ahead and toggle that off for now, is within a boundary. So if maybe we have a very specific idea of where we want to target, we can go ahead and create our own boundary and make it specific. So here maybe I'm targeting specifically around a given highway, and then maybe including this historic district over here. There we've created our own customized polygon. And let's go ahead and look at the consumer expenditures. We'll go ahead and create that report. And then we can see here what everyone is spending their money on in this given polygon over here. So we scroll down and we can see all the different areas: apparel, education, entertainment. So here we can see, I know that pickleball, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's kind of like a shortened version of tennis, is really taking off around the country right now. So if I were looking to maybe potentially do some kind of facility over there, I would look right here at maybe 2 of these categories: fees and admissions, or maybe even 3, recreational equipment and supplies, or entertainment. And we can see what the average is and the total. And so let's say I want to go ahead and sell this equipment or this entertainment. I can go ahead and toggle that on, and I can see the intensity by total or by average that's being spent in a given block group. Awesome. Let's go ahead and just kind of scroll through the other items that are generated in consumer expenditures: food and beverage, healthcare, household furnishings and equipment, shelter, household operations, miscellaneous expenses, personal care. Ooh, this is one of the longer lists: utilities, gifts, personal insurance, and contributions. So let's go ahead and reset this. And then the last way, my favorite way to search, is by around an address. So I'm going to go ahead and use Lake Worth Beach CRA's address over here. And this will put you at the center, your business at the center of the world, essentially. And here you can search by 2 different ways: by miles, so you'll get a circular a buffer, or as the crow flies. Or if you want to look at it in a amount of drive time, you can look at it, let's do 5 minutes. Now, when we set it here, we can see how far we can get from 1121 Lucerne Avenue in 5 minutes. And let's go ahead and select the report type, look at labor force. Let's say we're trying to look for maybe potentially our next set of employees. We create this, and we get a customized polygon of how far you can get from this address. And then we can see the total amount of establishments that exist here, total amount of employees, establishment by size, by type. And then we can also look at total employees by occupation. Let's go back to the seafood restaurant example. Let's say maybe I was looking to target new employees with a certain set of skills. Right here, food preparation / serving. We can see that there's about 1,300 or 7% within this polygon that are there. If we want to toggle that on and off, we can see with even more specificity. By total, we can target this area here, this area here. It seems like it's a higher intensity, or by percentage. Looks like 10 or 11 to about close to 15% of the population here in a given block group have the food preparation / serving skills. So that was the demographics module, the final of the 4 different modules in your SizeUp widget. Being able to ask open-ended questions in multiple ways and with different report types. So you'll be able to explore that in specificity by the block group level. So now that we've gone through all 4 of these modules, let's do a quick recap. We have the My Business module, where you'll be able to compare your industry or your business to like businesses in your area. We have the competition module, being able to see your ecosystem, your competitors, potentially where your customers are, and discover new suppliers. Advertising, optimizing those advertising dollars to get a better return on investment. And then last but not least, the demographics module, being able to search in multiple different ways by different report types to ask open-ended questions. A couple of other things: this tool is free to the public, to the community of Lake Worth Beach. We highly encourage you to use it, obviously, and get better prepared through the lens of data. It is worth revisiting because, especially in the My Business module, our firmographic data is updated every 3 months. Other things like the demographics, since we get it from public sources, are updated about every 6 months to a year. I hope that was helpful, and I really appreciate all of your time. If you have any questions in the future, feel free to email Lake Worth Beach CRA. you can go ahead and email Emily or Joanne, and they would be I would be happy to get their relayed questions. Okay, well, same. Thank you very much and have a great day. Bye-bye.